President Biden delivered his annual State of the Union address last night, and the death toll from the catastrophic earthquakes in Syria and Turkey has surpassed 11,000 people. A warning, some of these images may be difficult to view. Good morning, I'm Corva Coleman from NPR News, and here are today's top stories. President Biden touted the nation's record-high employment rate during his State of the Union address last night. As NPR's Barbara Sprunt reports, the mood in the chamber shifted when the president talked about the debt ceiling and entitlement programs.
In a section of the speech focused on the economy, President Biden seemed to go back to his days as a senator, debating his Republican colleagues. He claimed that some Republican lawmakers suggested that Medicare and Social Security should sunset every 5 years. Republicans in the chamber booed.
I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant, but it's being proposed by individuals. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you.
Some Republicans have suggested that cuts to entitlement programs are needed, but House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has said cuts to Social Security and Medicare are off the table. Barbara Sprunt, NPR News, the Capitol.
The death toll has increased from this week's earthquake calamity in Turkey and Syria. More than 11,000 people have now been killed. Rescuers are overwhelmed by the scale of the disaster, and there's little time left to save people trapped in mounds of heavy concrete debris. NPR's Rob Schmitz is in Istanbul and says the Turkish government is putting survivors up in any safe building available.
Turkey's emergency management agency says nearly 400,000 people have taken refuge in government shelters or hotels. Others are living in stadiums, mosques. At least 6,000 buildings in Turkey collapsed. And even for those whose homes are still standing, they don't want to go back because there have been hundreds of aftershocks, some of them big enough to topple more buildings.
NPR's Rob Schmitz reporting. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has arrived in Britain. Villa Marks reports it's his first visit to the UK since Russia invaded Ukraine nearly a year ago.
The office of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said the British leader and his Ukrainian counterpart would hold meetings and Zelenskyy would speak inside the Parliament in Westminster. Britain has announced efforts to train Ukrainian forces outside Ukraine will continue and expand, and in future these will extend to include Ukrainian Marine forces as well as pilots of fighter jets. This should allow Ukrainian combat pilots to fly aircraft commonly found among NATO members, helping to meet a repeated request from Zelenskyy to his Western allies. The UK has been one of the largest donors of military aid and supplies to Ukraine and has so far sent more than $2.5 billion in equipment and weapons to Kiev for use in the country's fight with Russian forces. For NPR News, I'm Bill Marks.
The Navy is continuing the search for the remnants of the Chinese spy balloon the U.S. military shot down last Saturday off the South Carolina coast. Tension between the United States and China remains high over the incident. The Pentagon says China has declined to secure a call between Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and his Chinese counterpart. You're listening to NPR.